Okay. Hi. I'm about to tell a story I've never told to more than just a few people. And I just want to say that if there are any law enforcement officials in the audience tonight, that please put on your retirement hat or try and remember that this story takes place well outside the statute of limitations, okay? Great. Glad we got that out. Okay. This story takes place a week before my wedding in 2005, October 2005, in what looks exactly like a two-car garage. Now, I say it looks exactly like a two-car garage because up until a few days ago, for the past 20 years, this garage had the garage door shut and screwed shut and was a illegal marijuana grow room for 25 plus years. I forgot to mention that this took place in Northern California, where I grew up, in Santa Rosa, of all places. So, makes sense now. Everybody heard that, right? Oh, yeah, makes sense, okay. Explains a lot about the way that I look, too, right? Okay, so the reason that I know that this was an illegal grow room is that I myself was hired by the owners to make it look like it was now a garage again, and I wasn't ever supposed to tell anybody about it until tonight. Now I'm telling you guys. So what I was hired to do, I was basically hired because I was a really good carpenter. Still am a good carpenter. I was hired because I was a good carpenter, and I was a bit of a nerd, and these guys, one of the guys was one of my best friends, and the guy that owned the place was his dad. And to show you how much of a nerd I am, I didn't even know about the grow room until they asked me to take it apart. And I had been to my friend's house probably 20 or 30 times. So my first thought was, oh my God, how did I not know about this? My second thought was like, you guys want to pay me how much? Right? So I had a reputation as being this nerd who could keep his mouth shut. So I spend 4 days, I need to throw in that, I need to remind you that I am a week away from my wedding, which takes place in Philadelphia, and I was about to marry a Philadelphia attorney who's very good and very straight-laced. If you put her next to me, you'd think she was puritanical. So that also explains why I didn't tell her while she was in Philadelphia what I was doing in California that week. I just told her I was working for cash. So I spent 4 days taking apart framed walls that were framed just inside the garage, giant air filters, plastic sheathing, and a whole bunch of electrical wiring. So nearing the end of the project, I had to disassemble all this electrical wiring, and then there was some thought to, wow, where does all this electrical wiring get fed from? It gets fed from a sub-panel that's probably fed from somewhere near the electrical meter. Now, I didn't want to ask where the power came from because I kind of knew the answer because I had heard stories about people in Northern California. So on this particular day, I find out from the owner, Wes, who, by the way, looks like a perfect combination of Tommy Chong and Sam Neill. And sounds like it, too. He's got this big mustache. Well, Tom, So he informs me on that day that 20-some-odd years ago, one of his best friends had hooked him up with free power. I don't want to know this. I'm about to get married. I don't need to know this. But he also informs me that that day, after everything was finished, I was supposed to help him disconnect this illegal power source, which had to be done while the 200 amp service to the house was still live. You couldn't turn it off because then that would notify the power company that something illicit was going on. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here for this event. I want to be gone. I'm just happy to pack up my tools, not get paid for the day, go home. But Wes knew that that was going to happen. So he mind-fucked me. He did. He had the whole mind-fuck plan. First of all, he didn't have he asked his family and all of his employees not to be anywhere near the house that day. And then he paid me for the day in cash at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then he gave me an extra $200 and he said, Tom, this is for rubber gloves, rubber mats, and an electrically rated Phillips head screwdriver. I understand if you don't want to be here today. And then, with the eyes of a father, like a wise old somber father, he says, but if you can make it back, I could really use the help, man. And then he just walked away and said, I'll see you at 2 o'clock. So I'm out shopping for all things rubber, as many rubber things as I can gather to insulate us from 200 amp service, right? Oh my God, I'm thinking I can't go back there, I shouldn't go back there. But then I kept thinking, here's the kicker. I had just lost my parents about like 3 years before this. So I knew what it was like to lose a parent, and I didn't want my buddy to lose his dad. And now this asshole puts me as the only person that stands in the way between death and living. So now I gotta protect my buddy's dad from dying that day. So I'm mad at him. Oh, I gotta go. Okay, so I get back. I'm thinking about my wife. I'm blocking her out. Because if she knew it, oh my God, what are you doing? So at 2 o'clock, I'm wrapping it up. At 2 o'clock, I remember this, at 2 o'clock, kneeling in the corner of the garage next to these two connections that are filled with electricity, I'm standing behind my good friend's dad with a 2x4 and a bunch of rubber stuff, ready to knock him off if he gets hung up on the electricity. And he reaches down and he turns the screws, lefty-loosey, 4 of them, sweat dripping down. You could almost hear the sweat hit the floor. And then the best thing in the world happened. Nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And if you ask me after the show if this story really took place, I will tell you, no, nothing frickin' happened.